As the Chicago Bulls get set to return to action tonight against the Boston Celtics after a week off from the All-Star break, now more than ever is the time for the Bulls to be locked in and focused going into this final stretch. A stretch that will more than likely end in a play-in bid, but the Bulls could make it interesting if these 5 things occur in these final 27 games. 5 things we need to see from the Bulls post-All-Star break. What are they? Well, let's dive into it. Also, selfishly, a quick plug. I haven't mentioned the second channel on this one in a while, but my NBA channel, M1 Hoops, just passed 30,000 subscribers, and I cannot thank you all enough for the support, not only on this channel, but for those who watch the content over there as well. And if this is your first time hearing of the channel, feel free to check it out. If you're interested in hearing about general NBA topics, not just the Bulls, I'll leave a link to that in the description. Now, a few things that need to be stressed when talking about these things that we need to see from the Bulls to close out the season. By no means do I think that the Bulls are going to be making any kind of noise or contending for a title by following through on these points. And these 5 that I'm going to review are by no means a comprehensive list, just the top 5 things that I think are the most important that we need to see. There are a lot of things that I would like to see from this group in these final 27 games, but let's just stick with the top 5 for right now. And so let's start with the first one, and in no particular order, by the way, but that's the Bulls needing to sign someone off the buyout market. Now, normally, I would say this is a non-issue and isn't going to move the needle for this team at all. Sure, they can sign someone, but it's not critical. But given the news we just received about Torrey Craig being sidelined for at least 2 to 4 weeks, that's when he's slated to be reevaluated, not to return to the court. And the fact that Patrick Williams is also out for the foreseeable future with no timetable for his return, which that is a whole other separate topic and gripe I have with this organization and not being transparent about player injuries. But in short, I would not be shocked if Patrick Williams does not play for the rest of the season. Just the history and based on what's been communicated thus far would lead me to believe that. But tangent aside, because you have the Bulls only two true power forwards out of the lineup for a significant period of time, it makes signing a player off the buyout market all the more critical. Now, who could that be? Well, there are some players who have been bought out or maybe getting bought out and haven't yet that could fit with the Bulls and what they're looking for. Danilo Gallinari already signed with the Milwaukee Bucks. Marcus Morris, I believe, is already signed with the Wolves, which those were the Bulls' 2 best options as it relates to looking for someone or some depth at the 4. Actually, I take that back because Thaddeus Young would have been the best option for that role and also just for his leadership off the court, but he signed with the Phoenix Suns. So really, when you take away those options, things are kind of limited. You have Davis Bertans, who is pretty lousy at this stage in his career, but he is a big or bigger player and a shooting marksman. Can't really play defense or rebound for anything, though. He also hasn't officially been bought out either. Evan Fournier, not a power forward, but a bigger body and also a shooter, but like Bertans, he also hasn't been bought out yet. And then Cedi Osman is another player who is younger and a good shooting wing that could fit well in that role. But again, like the previous 2, has also not been bought out yet. It's just been speculated that he might. People have also thrown in Joe Harris, but Harris is really a shell of himself after all of his injuries. Like, really, the options aren't good for the Bulls. But the Bulls need to sign someone. They need bodies at this point. They have an open roster spot. They're $1.7 million below the tax line. Make it happen. Number 2. We need to see Coby White ascend even further into these final games of the season. I know it's asking a lot because he's been playing so well already, and really, if you take out his first 10 to 15 games when the Bulls were really struggling as a whole, Coby has been playing at an all-star level, averaging over 22 points per game on high efficiency and great on-off numbers that show how much he's been impacting winning. But for the Bulls to really succeed in this final run, you need to see Coby take the reins even further, being that guy, that primary scoring option, the primary ball handler, the leader on the court, near perfect decision making. And I know it's a lot to ask when he leads the league in minutes played. He's played in every game so far this season, but we've got to see Coby take his game to an even further level post All-Star break, especially with the Bulls getting the injury bug and needing all the help they can get to remain quote-unquote competitive. Number 3, the Bulls have to improve their overall pace in games. As most of you know, the Bulls are dead last in the NBA in pace, and by a wide margin, I might add, at just 96.2 possessions per 48 minutes. That's really, really bad in today's NBA. They need to stop walking the ball up and playing in isolation in the half court or getting it to Vucevic in a post-up. They need to play quick, they need to play downhill, they need to turn defense into offense before their opponent gets set. I mean, really, it's not rocket science, and it shouldn't be much to ask given this is how most teams play the game in the NBA today. High-octane offense, ball movement, player movement. The Bulls are last in pace and 28th in the league in assists per game, 20th in overall offensive rating. We need to see the Bulls playing like they were in that winning streak right after going on that 5-14 stretch to start the season, and Zach being out of the lineup due to injury. Playing fast, with purpose, and with energy. Like, I've sort of resigned myself to the fact that the Bulls are already going to finish last in the league in pace, but we need to see that number at least upped a bit for the Bulls to have any kind of shot at making the playoffs. Number 4, we need to see significant improvement from Nikola Vucevic. Like, I don't think Vuce has been as bad as some fans are making him out to be and tearing him apart every game. He's still a big piece of the Bulls offense and an elite rebounder, but Vuce has got to play better in these final games. Like, they signed you to a $60 million contract, dude. You weren't worth that much, but they gave it to you anyway. The least you can do is come out at the end of the season, play hard, show some energy for once, not continuing to have missteps on defense, actually finish at the rim, given he's having one of the worst seasons of his career in shooting percentage from shots within 3 feet. And then, for the love of God, hit your threes. I don't mind that Vuce takes some of the threes that he puts up, mainly because he's wide open on so many of them, and Vuce being able to step out on the perimeter and take those shots opens up opportunities in the paint and spreads the floor for more options on offense. But when you're clanking wide open threes, it's maddening to see. Dude is shooting 27% from 3 on 4 attempts per game. That's unacceptable. And Vuce getting that up to, say, just 33%, shooting 33% from 3 for the rest of the season. I'm not talking about for the season as a whole, but just for the final 27 games, could be a huge difference maker in so many games. So many of these close games that the Bulls have lost. And then finally, number 5, and this probably shouldn't come as a surprise, and unfortunately for the Bulls, unlike the others I just mentioned, they don't have control over this, and that's health. The Bulls have got to get healthy. You know, we talked about it last season, how the Bulls, aside from Lonzo Ball, of course, they remain relatively healthy throughout the year, for the first time in a while too, and how you'd have to think, well, eventually all these minutes are going to catch up with them. Well, they have this season, and the injury bug has hit the Bulls yet again. Obviously, we know Zach LaVine and Lonzo won't be playing at all for the rest of the year. Patrick Williams and his status has remained up in the air and doubtful, and now you have Torrey Craig getting hurt yet again after missing a good portion of the season earlier. So really, the biggest thing we need to see from the Bulls post All-Star break is to get Craig and Patrick Williams back and healthy on the court, because they need their size, they need their defense, their strength and energy that they bring. Like, I don't think people realize just how big of a loss it's going to be for the Bulls to have both of those guys out at the same time. We saw it for a few games where their injuries overlapped a little bit earlier and the Bulls were severely undersized. They couldn't match up well against most opponents when it came to crashing the boards and getting second chance opportunities. And at the end of the season, when guys are already tired from all the minutes they've tallied, to ask more of them because other guys are out is rough for their own health heading into the playoff push. Yes, it'll be nice to see Julian Phillips and Dalen Terry get some run, giving them opportunities to grow and develop, and great, especially when the Bulls' future is kind of in doubt and you need some learning experience from these younger guys. But regardless, Bulls need their team healthy and ready to play if they want any chance at the playoffs. Of course, there are other things I would love to see from this team. I would love to see Ayo step up even further with more opportunity coming his way with Craig being out. I would love to see DeMar take a step back a bit and let Coby take more of the reins in these final games. And I would love to see the Bulls improve their overall rebounding, their three-point shooting. That still needs to get better. And really just shooting period. They're 21st in the league in overall field goal percentage. But while I can wish for the moon, I know it's not practical to expect all of these things to change post All-Star break. So anyway, those are 5 things we need to see from this Bulls team as we close out the season. I would love to hear what are some of your guys' things that you would like to see from this team in the final stretch. Let me know in the comments. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.